You have lived 8 decades of a beautiful full life, and your hair should say exactly that. But if you have been wearing the same cut for years, quietly hoping it still works, this video is going to change everything. I research worst style and beauty mistakes and youth-boosting fixes for mature women, so you get simple, proven transformations that work instantly. Today we're perfecting 7 haircuts that make older women look instantly younger after 80. And by part 4, you'll want to pause and look in the mirror. I mean it. We are covering 7 specific cuts, from a face-framing feathered crop to a sculpted silver wave. And one of them is going to make your eyes look whiter, brighter, and more alive without a single product change. Subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path so you never miss a transformation like this. And the very first haircut? It is the one most stylists never even suggest to women over 80. Let's go. 1. The feathered soft crop. Have you ever sat in a stylish chair and been handed the same blunt shortcut that every woman over 80 seems to get? That feeling, where you leave looking tidier but somehow flatter, is not your imagination. The blunt crop removes all softness from the face, and after 80, softness is everything. Here is the truth nobody tells you. As we age past 80, the face naturally loses volume around the cheeks and temples. A blunt cut with no layers emphasizes that loss. It creates hard edges exactly where you need softness. And that contrast ages you more than any wrinkle ever could. The feathered soft crop is the fix, and honestly, it is the most underused cut for women in their 80s. It uses light, wispy layers starting just above the ear, feathering outward toward the cheekbones and temples. Those feathered ends do something extraordinary. They scatter light across the face instead of framing it sharply, which softens the jawline, lifts the cheek area visually, and opens up the eye area in a way a blunt cut simply cannot do. Your bone structure, which is honestly still stunning at this stage of your life, gets to breathe inside this cut rather than being boxed in by it. If you are currently wearing a short crop with no movement, swap it for a feathered version with light point cut ends. Ask your stylist specifically for feathered soft layers from the ear upward with wispy ends through the crown. That exact language gives them the blueprint. The maintenance for a feathered crop is simple. A light hold mousse through damp hair, diffused with a blow dryer on low heat, gives you the exact soft movement the cut is designed to create. No stiff sprays. No heavy product. Just weight-free movement. This is the one that made a client of mine stop mid-conversation and say she looked like herself again for the first time in years. Not younger in a desperate way, just more alive. More present. Wear this with the ease it was always meant to carry. Now, part 2 is where things get even more interesting because the next cut works specifically with thinning hair at the crown, which is something most stylists avoid talking about entirely. 2. The volume lift textured pixie. Let me ask you something honest. When you look at the crown of your head in the mirror, does it feel like your hair is working with you? Or quietly disappearing? Thinning at the crown after 80 is extremely common. And the worst thing you can do is try to hide it with length. Here is what most women do not know. Keeping extra length on top with no internal structure actually flattens thinning hair further. The weight pulls it down. The result is a heavy flat crown that makes the whole head look smaller and older. The volume lift textured pixie solves this with precision. It removes length from the sides and nape, which frees the crown from competing weight, while leaving slightly more length through the top, cut with internal texture so the hair stands with natural lift rather than collapsing. Honestly, this is the cut I wish every stylist brought up the moment a client mentions thinning at the top. It does not look short and severe. It looks intentional, sculptural, and genuinely youthful without trying to be 30. Your beautiful eyes become the focal point of this cut because the crown lift draws the eye upward. Not outward, not downward, but straight up toward your most expressive features. If you are currently wearing a flat pixie with no internal texture, swap it for one where the stylist uses point cutting through the crown to create vertical separation in the hair. Ask for a textured pixie with internal point cutting at the crown for natural lift and volume. That is the phrase that gets you exactly what you need. Keep this cut refreshed every 5 to 6 weeks. That maintenance schedule is non-negotiable for this style. The moment the sides get heavy again, the lift disappears. This is the one that genuinely stops women in their tracks. Not because it is dramatic, because it is quietly, elegantly accurate. Part 3 is one I have been waiting to share, because it covers a length that women over 80 are almost always talked out of, and it is completely wrong of stylists to do that. 3. The sculpted silver lay flat bob. You have probably been told at some point that long or medium length hair is not appropriate past a certain age. I want to say this clearly and directly, that is not advice. That is laziness. The truth is that blunt medium length without shape does age women after 80. But a sculpted, tapered bob that sits just at or slightly below the jaw, cut with gradual layers that lay flat at the sides and open at the cheekbones, that is a completely different conversation. The sculpted silver lay flat bob works specifically for women over 80 because it uses graduated layers on the inside, not razor cut, not heavy, that allow the hair to follow the face's natural contours rather than fighting against gravity. Here is what that means for you specifically. The hair sits closer to the face through the temples and cheekbones, which creates a natural lifting effect on the jaw area. The ends taper inward slightly toward the chin, which softens the lower face without adding visual weight. Swap a blunt medium bob for this sculpted version and the difference is immediate. Your cheekbones read more defined. Your jaw reads softer. Your whole face lifts. Ask your stylist for a jaw-length sculpted bob with graduated interior layers and inward tapering ends at the chin line. Write that down if you need to. It will get you exactly the right result. For maintenance, this bob needs trimming every 6 to 7 weeks to keep the graduated layers working correctly. Between trims, a pearl or ivory tone gloss treatment, once a month keeps silver hair luminous rather than dull. And luminous hair reads as youthful full stop. This is the one that your bone structure was always built for. You just needed the right architecture. Part 4 covers the cut that adds the most visual fullness to very fine, delicate hair after 80. And it uses a technique most salons charge a premium for because it takes real skill. I am going to explain it so you can ask for it by name. 4. The cloud layer cut for fine hair. Fine hair after 80 is not a beauty problem. It is a styling challenge, and challenges have solutions. The issue is that most cuts for fine mature hair add layers in the wrong place. They layer from the outside in, which creates holes and gaps in the silhouette, and makes the hair look thinner than it actually is. Here is the insight that changes everything. Fine hair over 80 needs layers that work from the inside out, specifically placed just beneath the surface of the hair, hidden from view but doing structural work underneath. This is called the cloud layer cut. And it is the technique that stylists who truly understand fine mature hair use without advertising it. Your stylist lifts sections from underneath and creates soft disconnected layers that never show as gaps on top, but push the surface hair upward from beneath. The result is a rounded full cloud-like silhouette that holds its shape even without product. Honestly, I have seen this cut work on hair so fine it looked translucent at the crown. And within 4 weeks the same woman had women at her bridge club asking who her colorist was. The cloud layer works at any short to medium length. It is not style specific. It is a technique that applies to the pixie, the bob or a soft rounded crop. If you have fine hair, swap any cut that layers from the outside in for one that uses interior disconnected layers placed just beneath the surface. Ask for internal cloud layering for fine hair. Disconnected underlayers with no surface thinning. Most skilled stylists will know exactly what you mean. Maintenance here is gentle. A weightless volumizing mist, not a spray, not a mousse, applied at the roots only before diffusing, keeps the internal layers working without flattening them with product weight. Your natural elegance was never the issue. It was the architecture working against you instead of for you. Part 5 is the one I know you have been curious about since the title because it covers wave and curl, and what happens when your natural texture changes after 80 and nobody tells you how to work with it. 5. The soft wave reshape cut. Something changes with hair texture after 80 that most women are never warned about. Hair that was once straight can develop a soft wave. Hair that was curly can loosen into something undefined. And hair that was wavy can lose its pattern entirely, turning into a shape that is neither straight nor curly and flatters nothing. This is not damage. This is biology. The mistake most women make here is trying to fight the new texture. Straightening it, setting it with rollers into a shape it no longer naturally holds, or simply ignoring it and hoping the definition comes back. It will not come back, but it can be redesigned. The soft wave reshape cut is specifically engineered for changed post-80 texture. Your stylist cuts the hair into a shape that works with whatever natural wave or movement remains, even if that movement is subtle, uneven, or soft. The cut uses curved layers that guide the hair to move in one cohesive direction, rather than pulling in three different ones. Swap roller sets and stiff curl attempts for a cut that lets your natural texture lead. The reshape asks your hair what it wants to do, and then gives it permission to do exactly that. Ask your stylist for a soft wave reshape cut using curved layers that follow my current natural movement pattern. That single phrase opens the right conversation. Maintenance for this cut relies on one product choice: a curl defining cream that is water-based and alcohol-free, applied to damp hair only, then left completely alone to dry. Do not touch it. Do not scrunch it. The less interference, the better the result. There is one technique that changes how your entire face reads on camera. It is built into part 6, and it involves a fringe decision that stylists get wrong almost every single time for women in their 80s. 6. The side-swept curtain fringe with short crop. The word bangs after 80 makes most stylists immediately say no. And in most cases they are right to say no because the bangs they are imagining are the wrong kind entirely. Here is the truth that changes the conversation. A heavy, blunt, across the forehead fringe after 80 is aging. It shortens the forehead, drops the visual weight of the face downward, and covers exactly the part of the face, the brow and upper eye, where an open frame adds the most youth. But a side-swept curtain fringe, soft, wispy, parted slightly off-center and swept to one side, does the exact opposite. It opens the forehead on one side while creating a soft diagonal line that leads the eye diagonally toward the cheekbones and eyes. That diagonal is everything. It is the line that lifts the face visually without a single needle. Paired with a soft short crop behind it, the curtain fringe creates a frame that is sophisticated, distinctly modern, and deeply flattering to mature facial anatomy. If you are currently wearing a blunt fringe, swap it for an off-center curtain fringe swept to your stronger side, the side with the more defined cheekbone. Ask for a wispy curtain fringe parted slightly off-center and swept to one side, with feathered ends that graze the brow line without sitting on it. Those beautiful eyes of yours deserve to be the first thing anyone sees. This fringe makes that happen. Maintenance for this fringe requires one thing above all else: regular trimming every 4 weeks. A curtain fringe that grows even half an inch too long starts sitting on the brow instead of grazing it, and the entire effect shifts from lifting to covering. For weeks. Non-negotiable. You needed to hear this. Part 7 is the final cut, and it is the one that pulls everything we have covered together into one complete look. A sculpted, full silver forward style that I genuinely believe is the most beautiful thing a woman over 80 can wear. 7. The sculpted rounded crown cut. Every cut we have covered so far has done one specific job beautifully. This last one does all of them at once. The sculpted rounded crown cut is not a single technique. It is a philosophy of cutting that takes the best of what works for women over 80 and combines it into one deliberate shape. Here is how it works. The crown is cut with internal lift layers that create a rounded dome shape when dry. Not a helmet, never a helmet, but a soft, full, rounded silhouette that sits naturally above the face and creates an upward visual line from the jaw to the crown. That upward line is the most anti-aging compositional element in hair design. When the eye follows a line upward, it reads the face as lifted. When the eye follows a line downward, flat sides, drooping ends, collapsed volume, it reads the face as heavy. The sculpted rounded crown lifts everything by redirecting the eye upward. Honestly, this is the cut I have been most excited to share because it does not ask you to look younger. It asks you to look more like yourself at your best right now, exactly as you are. Your natural elegance, those beautiful eyes, your bone structure, all of it becomes the focal point of this shape because the hair frames upward and outward toward your features rather than pulling away from them. If you are wearing a flat, unstructured short cut with no crown presence, swap it for a sculpted rounded crown cut with graduated sides and interior lift layers through the top. Ask your stylist for a sculpted rounded crown cut with interior lift layers, graduated sides, and a deliberate rounded silhouette through the top. For maintenance, this cut needs trimming every 5 weeks to keep the rounded silhouette intact. A light hold volumizing cream through the crown only, worked in with fingertips before drying, preserves the dome shape without product buildup or stiffness. This is the cut that announces to every room you walk into that you are still here, still vibrant, and completely unapologetically yourself. And that is not a small thing. That is everything. You just learned 7 specific haircuts that work with your face, your texture, and your natural beauty at 80 and beyond. And most women spend years guessing at this alone without ever finding real answers. Boom, your bone structure was always this stunning. Now it shows. Tell me in the comments, which of these 7 cuts are you most excited to try? And which one surprised you most? Next time we are going deep into the one hair color mistake that ages women over 80 faster than any cut, and the fix your colorist can do in one appointment. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.